Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for joining. So sorry for the technical issue earlier. We are glad that you're able to make it on time. Thank you for joining today's session on United Kingdom and Europe Graduate Application and Scholarship webinar. My name is Nidia from Rutgers University, and it is my honor to be the very first moderator for this session. And this session will be recorded, so please mute yourself if you are not speaking. And during this process, a lot of people have been asking the million-dollar question, like what is the winning application that will make it stand out? So I hope today's session will address those questions and any question that you have. I'm very glad to have 5 speakers today from various backgrounds, different experiences, and we're excited to hear about their experiences and how they landed their scholarship and the opportunity. So why don't we start from Ajayi, maybe spend a few minutes talking about yourself and whatever you think would be helpful to the audience.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Olayinka Josiah Ajayi. I was previously a Commonwealth Scholar at Erasmus University for just 2019 session that just ended for an MS in Applied Mathematical Science and Climate Modeling. And then thereafter, I got a PhD offer at the University of Warwick, where I'm currently based in Coventry. So about scholarship, right? Nidia, is that what you said? I should share my view about that. Okay.
Yes.
As regards my view, when it comes to scholarship generally, it's always best that each individual should play according to his strength or her strength. For someone like me, while I was applying for Commonwealth Share Scholarship, compared to a lot of others that I finally found out about, they applied to 7 schools, some 14 even. I found someone who registered for 18 different schools for Commonwealth Share. So it was quite interesting finding that out later on, because I registered for just one school. Not really because I couldn't register for 2, but I found out that that was what I actually loved to apply for. So I focused on my strength there, and then I was able to find convincing essays from my experience and my background to be able to put down, and it really helped me. So that's just what I could just point out. Generally speaking, you should focus more on the area of your strength than just diffusing your strength across so many options out there that you are never really certain about. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe next we'll have Samuel.
Sorry, I just had to unmute myself to be able to send a message. I'm Samuel by name. Everyone around usually call me Scholar Broombuster. In one way or the other, I don't know, many people have received this mysterious audio from someone they don't even know. This is the face behind the many audios you might have received from Scholar Broombuster. I had my bachelor's in photo and also my master's degree in photo. While I was in photo, I applied for Commonwealth Scholarship. I got it, but I was almost completing my master's degree, so it was for yet another master's. I remember communicating with one of my mentors who is also here today, Dr. Kelechi, telling him, look, I'm confused. I got a job, I got scholarship, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, we declined the Commonwealth Scholarship because it looks like a distraction, because better days are actually coming. And luckily, I would say the following year, which is the next season, I got multiple offers, one from Australia, one from Germany, two from the United States. If you ask me what's my take about scholarship, I always say two very important phrases. Number one, scholarship applications generally is a full-time business. You don't come into it part-time and expect your mentors to do the work for you. If you're ready for scholarship application, you are not partially in. You are totally in because it will require your strength, your energy, your finances, everything you would ever have. And secondly, my favorite quote is also Google to show yourself approved. Before you come to me and ask me, how should you apply? I believe you have gone to the website to see how to apply. Yeah, it's a very funny thing, but it's one of those numerous messages I used to receive, and sometimes I ignore them, not because I want to, but because I feel you don't come to me to ask me, how should you apply for a scholarship? No, the instruction is there. You should come to me and tell me, oh, I have a problem. I was writing my personal statement. Do you think this is good if I add it? Oh, that seems constructive, not something Google can actually provide for you. So once more, I'm Samuel. Currently, I'm a doctoral fellow at Rutgers University in United States. I came in as a fellow in my first year, and I also applied for a fellowship again in my second year, and I got it. The United States have a lot of funding. If you want to come and spend money, just put your application right. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, Samuel. That's a very exceptional journey. I'm very excited to hear more about it later in a bit in the session. So next we will have Dr. Casey.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me very well?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Casey. How are you?
So nice to be part of the panelists today. And I mean, it's a pleasure, I would say. So for me, it's always more about what we do than who we are. So I don't always care much about what stands before me. So Samuel, for instance, is someone that I have a lot of respect for. I've known Samuel since 2008, 2009. So he's someone that once he calls me to do something, I would be there, because I know that he's someone that is able to put himself out there for others. And this is for me one of my key values. I'm also happy that Marilyn is there in the panelists today. So very, very familiar faces. I would just summarize in a bit. I did my bachelor in photo, the same with Samuel, industrial chemistry. Then I came into the Erasmus Mundus program. I did the master's between Germany and France, 2013 to 15. Then in 2016, I got into the Erasmus Mundus, the Marie Curie PhD program. So it was a dual PhD. So between two different universities, specializing on developing sustainable based materials. Currently, I'm a research scientist at Procter & Gamble in Germany. And I would say that over the past 1 year or so, you would realize one thing when it comes to, as an example, the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. The numbers of Nigerians that have gotten this scholarship, or that got the scholarship this year, was almost, if not more than 100. And if there is one thing that has stood out, is because a lot of people, a lot of you here on the panelists, a lot of you even in the audience, are speaking out based on your experiences, sharing knowledge, leveraging on your experience to help others grow. And to me, that is the biggest way we can contribute to our society. And so I'm happy to be here. I wouldn't say I know a lot. I know enough to be dangerous. So I'm really happy, and I look forward to engaging with you. When it comes down to scholarship, I completely agree with what the first two speakers have said. Adding up to what Ajayi said, little is more. Okay, most times we perception that we want to apply to so many just in case one works, but you simply lose enough time to get one right. When most of us started, same with Samuel, I think the same with Marilyn, when we started this process, we may have applied to like, or sent almost 50 emails to different professors, but sincerely, if I look at them today, I'll be like, oh my God, how could I write something like this? You know, because we just want to feel that we have written to 50 professors, but none of them is worth one email, right? So to write one email, you need a lot of time. You need a lot of work to be done. And it's the same with scholarship. Don't just feel like every scholarship you need to apply to increase your chances. No, you don't increase your chances. You need to make sure that you give it well, because again, using Samuel's word, scholarship is a full-time job. So you have to give in that dedication. You have to also understand that the people that want to help you, whether they are mentors or your fellow friends, have some other life, right? So you don't come to them with generic questions that you could find for yourself. And this is why, I mean, one of the last session that I did, I basically had to like walk down step by step. And each time you contact me to ask this question, I just send you a video. So
Sorry,
you have
please mute yourself.
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me? So each time you contact me, I send you that video. It's about 1 hour, 30 minutes. And if you can watch the video, then you can come back to me. I mean, if you cannot watch the video for 1 hour, 30 minutes, then you don't even know what you want. And it's difficult for me to help you. So let's also take that and understand that a lot of the work has to be done by you, not by the people you are going for to get help. So very nice to be part today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Casey. You're being very humble. You know a lot. So I think next we'll have Marilyn. That Dr. Casey already introduced you, but can you tell more about yourself, Marilyn?
Oh yeah, thank you very much, Nidia. Thanks for the invitation. I'm really honored to be in your midst. So my name is Marilyn, and my own scholarship journey, I think I'm going to come from that angle. It's not been like a straightforward path, right? So, you know, graduating from the university with a first class and having like lots of expectations about what the world has out there for you, and realizing that, wow, you know, it's not really that, you know, straightforward. But then in all of that, through the storms, through the, you know, rejections, you know, the main most important thing was just keeping my eye on the goal. You know, there were times when I felt, okay, maybe I'm just going to just abandon this search for a scholarship and look for a job. But that's not what I wanted at that point. That wasn't my goal, and I had to just keep pressing. So I did my master's in embedded systems with NDBC scholarship. Actually, before then, I call myself an unawarded presidential scholar because I received I don't know how many of you know about the Proficiency scholarship that actually taught that, you know, it's like when you've been on the queue and then once it got to your turn, you know, they just said we're closing the gates. So that was what happened in our own sets. I got the it was announced, but then we weren't awarded when the new regime came into power. Yeah, so that was supposed to be for masters and PhD. So we had to then look for another route. But the main thing was that my eye was on the goal, and that's what I would encourage you. Keep your eye on the goal. Like, it might not just work out exactly the way you planned. You might not, maybe you were planning to go to an Ivy League. You might not end up getting the Ivy League goal. Just keep your eye on the goal. Like, ask yourself, what is the most important factor? And for me, it was actually getting the higher education, quality education that I wanted. Then, so that, after all that happened, I was still able to get the NDBC scholarship, and there were other scholarships. I know we're doing other sections like the Asian and the Australian scholarship. So I got an Asian scholarship in Taiwan, and also a Russian scholarship, a Russian university scholarship that same year. So I just had to choose the UK then. And then currently, in the third year of my PhD, I also got a university scholarship I mean, a lot of people ask, how are you able to get a scholarship from the university in the UK? Because everyone thinks it's difficult, but that's going to be another story. Yeah. So that's me, and I'm looking forward to learning from the other panelists and from you as well, from your questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Marilyn. I'm very excited to hear more about your journey a bit later in the session, but yeah, definitely keep your eye on the goal. That's very important. Thank you, Marilyn. As next, we will have Chin Young So.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, my fellow panelists. My name is Chinonso Christian. I mean, hearing all the panelists say one or two amazing things that I've done so far and how scholarship has been, I think it's really a great honor to be part of this panelist. My background, I actually did my BSc in Mundus University, where I studied pure and abstract. I worked for a private firm. While doing that job, I kind of developed a soft spot for environmental studies and how it affects human health and well-being. So I kind of finished my service in 2015, and then that's towards the end of 2015, and I was really people ask that questions and come up to me and say, what exactly are you going to do now? And luckily for me, I met two interesting people. I mean, at different points in time. The first person was my friend who actually studied pharmacy. And when I met, he's not been in communication for a while after school. So I met him and then he said, I actually want a scholarship and I am going to thank the deputy Akkad in Unity then, thank him for serving as his referee. So I was like, Commonwealth Scholarship, are you serious? Like, what does it entail? What's the whole thing? And then he told me that, he applied and then he did this, he did that, and how come this information didn't get to me? So that was when it dawned on me that information is really power. I mean, this is the essence of this group, where we can share information, where we can put you in the right paths, where we can support each other, because, I mean, we don't know it all. But I believe with our little experiences, we can support each other to make sure that everybody here achieve their own common goal. So back then, I picked interest and I was following this guy, like, every now and then, like, I didn't give him a space. And then the second guy also, who obviously Samuel is aware of, Joseph Obede, who is also in the University of British Columbia in Canada. So those two guys changed the narrative for me. Like, they opened why it is my own duty to do my due diligence and do my research and do the work, come up with the cases, do what I'm expected to do. I mean, it's expected that at the end of the day, they were also there to guide me. Okay, this is not what you're doing. You're not doing this part right, and you're not doing this part. So I heed to the advice, and in 2017, 2018, at the University of Exeter, where I studied environment and human health. So following my graduation, came back to, I was working for an European Center for Environment and Human Health. I did a graduate assistant research job for them because it was more like a research project that's somehow tied with my MSc project as well. So I had to do some part of the research work. Then I came back to Nigeria, where I currently work as a but then I also wanted to do my PhD. So within the period last year, within the period of months, I had two interests, two countries of interest, that's Canada and Australia. And by the special grace of God, I was able to secure fully funded scholarship in both countries, of which I chose the University of Princeton as my preferred choice. About scholarship, I would say, yes, I mean, it's definitely a full-time job. It's something that you really need to give your best. I've seen so many people walk up to me and say, how do I write this essay? How do I do this? Some had even made a proposition that I should write their essays for them. You know, you begin bad enough because they put in. If you really want a scholarship, then you will be ready to do what is expected to be done. Like, do your research, try to find all the information necessary. I mean, there's one guy that I found really intriguing because each time I speak to one of my friends connected to this guy, now I'm not saying that the guy is like someone who tries to as much as talk to everybody or something like that, but I see the passion, I see the enthusiasm, I see the motivation to want to achieve something. And that is the drive that we all need if you actually want this scholarship, because yes, Chevron Scholarship is open, Commonwealth will soon join in, MasterCard are always there. But if all the scholarships are open, but you don't have that motivation, okay, why am I even going to apply for this scholarship? What is in there for me? You need to define your why. It's only when you define that why, you have that motivation, that strong will to want to push in. And then you don't expect every result to turn out well for you anyway, because scholarship is not, it can be so devastating. I had one rejection at some point in my life when I was in the University of Exeter. I almost thought I had gotten a PhD scholarship with my school because I mean, I wrote a very good project proposal then, and I had a very good supervisor. And we're shortlisted down to 10 people, and it was just like, okay, we had 3 slots. So it's 90 persons we actually interviewed for that offer, and we are there, I'm there already. But then I received that rejection, and it dawned on me that you really need to go back and learn from your mistakes and come back better. And that's exactly what I did. Today, it turned out well for me. So, and getting your motivation, try to find a why, the strong reason why you want to apply for this scholarship. And I believe that will really go a long way to helping you. And one thing I must not fail to mention is the importance of mentorship as well. I mean, it works so well for me. I am someone who believes in, if I want something in life, I look out for someone who have achieved that particular thing I want to achieve and mirror their style, and I believe I'll produce the same results or even a better results. Like, I've had that conviction and it has always worked for me. So I believe it can also work for anybody who believes in it anyway, and I hope we can all achieve our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tinoso. Yeah, definitely, motivation is important, and that kind of lead me to a segue of a few questions I have for the panelists. I know we touched upon motivation and take initiative to do Google search and a bunch of things, but what makes the application stand out? Question for all panelists.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't quite hear that.
Yes, the question is what makes an application stand out, like what makes you special as an applicant?
Okay, I think I'll start first then. Although I applied for a lot of scholarships as well in the past, but I didn't really get every scholarship I applied to. So what I learned the hard way was that each scholarships, they have their peculiarities. They have what they look out for. So you don't expect to follow a particular application style for every scholarship you apply to. For example, the Commonwealth looks at your background, the volunteer activities you've been. They kind of empathize with you to a certain extent. That's the Commonwealth shared scholarship if you're to. So if you're to write essays, if you pinpoint your background, pinpoint some of the experiences you've been through, some of the volunteer activities you've participated in, and all that, it's drives home the point depending on who the nominating body is or nominating agency. But if you apply to scholarships like Chevron, where they consider the profile of these individuals who are applying, the kind of leadership activities you've taken, the kind of experiences you have, the kind of network you've built in the past, and its kind, it presents a very good application for you in that case. So you won't expect to write a sympathetic essay for Chevron Scholarship compared to if you should write one for Commonwealth Scholarship. So I feel that if one can find the target of a particular scholarship and then present an application with the right profile, with the right team surrounding your applications and your essays, it should give one a better chance compared to just using a generic approach to all scholarship applications. So that's my view for now.
I guess I would jump in. I don't think there is any chronological order, but then I would just like to jump now.
Yeah, please jump in.
Yeah. So a winning application, just like my good friend and brother, even though sometimes he called me mentor, but I refuse. Always said, you really have to understand the scholarship you're applying for. I technically don't even like calling it scholarship. You really need to know what are the needs of the funding agency that you are seeking funds from, because sometimes the funding might not even come from a scholarship body. It could be just one supervisor. You just have to craft a very good email and convince him that you are smart and you are able to work under him. Just that single one email can change your life and give you the funding you're looking for. So there is nothing called a generic, there is nothing called a golden rule for any for all scholarship application, but there could be rules that will guide you to a particular funding you're applying for. I would be very specific, just like my friend, about Commonwealth scholarships, Chevron scholarships, and so on and so forth. Even within Commonwealth scholarship applications, what different schools look at varies. I remember putting up an application. One of the funding I got, which in 2018, the Commonwealth, to study public health epidemiology option. One of the things the woman who was in charge of Commonwealth sent to me was that I was very excited when we read your personal statement and discovered that you are interested. How did I get that information? I was going to apply to that department, but I had to go and research the department and see what they are doing. And when I found out that one aspect of their emerging interest was female genital mutilation, I have to craft my personal statement towards female genital mutilation. And when I did that, boom, the funding came. I won't just sit down and, oh, it is public health epidemiology. I just stand and say, cholera. Oh yes, let me write on cholera. I might be writing on a topic that the school I'm applying to is not even interested in that topic at all. So no matter how enthusiastic I am, no matter how passionate I am about that application, the school doesn't want my profile. So what I'm saying is, there is no rule. You have to carefully sit down and look at all that is required. If you are told to write essays, for instance, if you are told to write 5 essays for a particular scholarship, just know that every one of those essays require your full-time attention. And you don't have to pick up one essay. I thank God many of you know I have stopped sharing my winning essays with people. The only thing I do these days is to share tips, because I realize when you share your personal statement or your essay with people, you have already hindered their ability to be creative. They will just look at your pattern and say, this is the one that won the scholarship. Therefore, let me make my own this way. No, it's not like that. There's no rule that way. You have to do your own work. You have to sit down, look at what the department is requiring. If I am applying to the Department of Mathematics and I'm interested in mathematical modeling, I have to check first if they have faculties that are into mathematical modeling, or else I'm just shooting my bullet to the air, no matter how strong my bullet is. So you have to research the department. And then it doesn't end in what you do. I won't forget to mention this, that one of the most important aspects of your winning application is your referees. Remember, your referees doesn't even have to be a professor. Your referees doesn't even have to be one world-known professor, but just know that your referee should be able to write something very, very strong and exhaustive about you. How did I get to know this? I remember when I was applying for Commonwealth scholarships between 2016 to 2008, during my master's program at FUTO. Each time I need a referee report, I would just go and meet the head of department because I feel he's the best person that is supposed to write my referee report. And there is usually this thing that the HOD usually tell the staff as an instruction. They will say, go and meet so-so person. I won't mention the name. They say, go and meet so-so person. Tell her to give you referee. Now, when I go there, do you know what they do? There's already a template that is about 16 or 18 lines. They will just remove the person's name, put my name, remove the person's name, put my name there, print it, put an official stamp, and give it to me. And I'll be so excited back then that yes, I've gotten referee report from head of department. Little did I know that those referees were not going anywhere. When I got multiple offers, funny enough, I had to work with my referees. Each and every one of them had to write between 1 to 2 pages exhaustively describing how I was strong academically, how I am strong research-wise, how I'm able to work with people, how I am able to, there are so many questions that a good referee report is supposed to entail. And I wasn't surprised when so many offers came, but I was like, oh my God, no matter how strong my applicant was, that 1-page referee report that will say he is kind and hardworking. I recommend him for graduate application. If you have any other question, feel free to contact me. Contact you, why? You are expected to tell people I am the top 1% of my class. You are expected to tell people so many exciting things about me that will motivate the scholarship body. So please, if you are selecting your referees, after you have finished packaging all your bullets, you've done all your research, your referee could be someone who maybe newly just got a PhD. Sometimes you don't even need a PhD to be a very good referee, but the person that will serve as a referee just have to have an exhaustive knowledge of you, either in academia or in your workplace. Either one will work. So please, in my take, like I said, no general rule. Make sure you research wherever you're applying to, because sometimes the secret to funding is in the department that is advertising. And remember, your referees, they are super important. I think that's all I would say for now.
Thank you, Samuel. So I'm going to ask the next question. So what do you guys recommend that what they can do at the moment to increase their chance of getting admitted or a successful application?
Apparently, if there's one thing I always remember in mathematics is sequence, right? So if there is a 1, there is a 2, then apparently there's a 3. I know there is no straight way how the panelists are set up, but apparently we are going in that format. So let me just jump in. I will jump in a bit just to add up to the previous question. Sorry about that, because I think it's very important. It's a question that would definitely define, if there is one question that would give you the answer on whether you get a scholarship or not. I think that's the question. Because there's always this conversation about a winning scholarship, a winning application. How do you make your application to stand out? What people might call like points of differentiation. And I'm really, really happy. In fact, Samuel just took all the words out of my mouth, almost word for word. Very, very important, very, very important, the aspect of being unique, right? Being unique in your application, being unique in understanding what the application or the scholarship is all about. And I can't even add any word to it because, again, he took all the words out of my mouth. So Samuel, excellent. I'm happy that you put that out very nicely. So coming down to another aspect, which is still part of the whole picture, right? Because in fact, what I tell a lot of my mentees is that when it comes to recommendation, it's so important because it's supposed to actually, you have three main components, I would say, for any application. Typically for a regular scholarship, you have the CV. The CV summarizes your experience and everything about you. So if I look at your CV, I should know who you are, right? Then you have the motivation. It could be a motivation, a statement of purpose, essays, or whatever. But that should tell me how you feel about the program with respect. Of course, think about it this way. You have to sell yourself. That is what you're doing with your motivation. And how do you sell yourself? You sell yourself. Somebody should buy you based on what they are looking for. No matter how good you are selling yourself, if it's not what they are looking for, again, like someone said, it doesn't matter how good your bullets are, you simply just shoot in the air. So you have to sell yourself how they want to buy, full stop. If you are in love with a particular area, if that is not what the scholarship is about, you're wasting your energy. You have to tailor yourself to what they have. Since you are looking for the money, you have to fit yourself into what they are looking for. That's it. Now, for the recommendation, a recommendation is someone else aligning to what you have already showed on your CV and your motivation. Meaning that if I should look at your application, I should see the same story running through the three in different format, but saying the same thing. Meaning that if you come to your recommendation, the first point for anybody to recommend you is the person needs to know the program you're applying for. What is the program about? What are they looking out for? What is the scholarship about? What are their interests? How does the person find those interests in you as a person with specific examples? And perhaps you caught some of those examples in your motivation. So you have what I would call a coherent story, right? So somebody looking at the three of these different parts would directly know I'm talking about the same person. And there is no way this can be true if it's generic. So it has to be very specific. So again, just wrapping up on what someone said, but really, really nicely said. Okay, just wanted to jump in there.
Okay, let me speak on, I think this question was about how you should position yourself, right? From right media. This question you asked, yeah. So I mean, we really touched so much about applications, you know, placing your applications and all that. But then, like we said, there is no one way to go about. I mean, there are recommended ways, right? But there is no one way that you say it really works when it comes to applications. So, for example, I don't know among the audience, because I don't know if it would have really been nice to know what our interests. I know this is for Europe, but then in terms of our pursuits, whether it's for masters or for PhD or both, I don't know, like what the audience consists of. But then I think we're talking generally now about graduate admissions and applications. So one unexplored and unconventional approach when it comes to applications and positioning oneself is the area of email, direct contact to potential supervisors. And I'll talk about that because that was one, like it worked for me in several ways. Like I think I got like 3 or more scholarships through that medium. And in that way, I remember back then I would send generic emails like, you know, just change the there, and then I just change the name of the professor, their professor, I changed the name. But then over time, I realized that, you know, making things generic isn't, you know, just sending hundreds of emails without results, you know, it doesn't really help, rather than like focusing your attention on, let's say, a few professors that you've looked at their work that you're really interested in, and then you get to contact them and send, we've been talking about generic versus specific, send something really specific and talk about how you are going to add value to them, not just what you want to get out of them. So one part is talking about what your interests are, specific interests as it aligns to that you know, that professor, and then how you're going to use your background and your interest to actually work with them. So that would require you looking at, we've talked of research, you know, information. Do your research before you contact a professor. Don't just send generic emails that you can send to, because these days people are very, very busy. Like hundreds of emails like land on their inbox maybe every day. So sending an email, if you just look at that email and you think, can I really, if I send it to somebody else and just change the name, would it still make sense to the person? If the answer is yes, then you've not gotten the right email. So it has to be so customized that once you change the name, you won't be able to send it to another person. So customize your contact. And even when it comes to applications, I've seen times where I applied for a position, and the response I got was, oh, sorry, this application is already closed. So sometimes you see an advert, and on that they'll say, if you have informal inquiries, please contact so person. You know, so sometimes it's usually like important to contact those informal inquiries before you place your application, so you don't waste your time. Because several times it's happened to me. I applied not knowing that they've already selected the candidate, and it was just a formality. They just kept the advert there, maybe to occupy space, because some of these adverts are paid for, so they might just run till the end and they don't take it down. So it's also important, if you have questions regarding that position, regarding how you will be a suitable candidate for that particular position, it's good, actually, it's a good practice to contact them. And also it can help to save your time, you know, rather than spending all that time applying for the position and you end up, you know, with nothing. Yeah, so just a way to maximize your effort as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I guess everybody is jumping in, so I have to jump in as well.
Yeah, please jump in.
Much for that, and obviously looking at what makes your application stand out. This is really an important question, and I'm so happy that at least virtually the 4 panelists who have spoken before me really covered ground, like virtually everything that needs to be said. And one thing I have to add is, in applying for different scholarships, like Lionka said initially, you need to know why. I mean, you need to find out. It should be it's something that is unique to you. Like, you need to make sure that you do your due research well. But then, you know, when I was actually applying to Chevron Scholarship, because I did apply to Chevron Scholarship, that was in the year I applied to Commonwealth. And yeah, I had the, how would I put it? I thought I had the experience. I thought I had the leadership ability and all those basic information, networking skills, and the rest of them. But I strongly believe that the kind of application I put up, I mean, if I read that application right now, I probably will not believe that I personally wrote that essay. You know why? Because I have gone through what I've read, what I wrote, and I realized that, if I am even the scholarship body, then I will not even award that particular essay the scholarship. Because every particular scholarship has its own unique way of assessing the candidate. If you take, for example, Chevron, you know, there are 4 major essays you have to cover. You're talking about your networking skills, your career objective, you're talking about your leadership potential, and of course, what do you stand to gain after the completion of your master's? What was your career projection? So basically, reference, I want to tie this to reference. So, and you've written a leadership essay, you've written a networking essay, you've written career objective essay, and you've also written, you know, what you stand to gain in the UK, the essay on your studies in the UK. You've written those 4 basic essays, and they are perfect. They are amazing. I think if someone should ask me, I think that shouldn't end there, because if, for example, your referee can comment not just on your academic ability, on these 4 areas, on this, maybe say how you were able to lead, how you were able to network, how you were able to, I mean, what is your passion going forward? So these are the informations you need to sit down and discuss with your referees. Like, get this information across to them, because I know obviously they don't know it all. And sometimes you need to make sure that you pass this information to them, give them information, give them prior notice on time, so that they are aware of what is expected of the particular scholarship you're making. Chevron Scholarship is ongoing right now. And yes, I did not get it when I applied, because I think my application wasn't even close to being good. And not because I didn't want to get it, but because I didn't do my research very well, and because I didn't do the really work that is needed in that particular application. And again, going back to what all the mentors have said, it boils down to how unique you are in bringing yourself. And at the end of the day, being unique doesn't necessarily mean you have to follow the same step. Maybe Mr. A wrote his application in this format, and then you said, well, why not I do the same thing he or she has done? I think it has to do with finding what works well for you, finding the balance between your experience and how you were able to convey that information to the people who are going to review your essays. And again, for example, I believe one of the strongest areas where I was lacking in my application was especially the leadership essay. You know, the leadership essay, when I spoke to people who actually got the award, you know, a couple of them are my friends right now. So when I spoke to them, I found out something unique. The importance of details, the importance of not just spending time on the surface. Because when I was writing my own leadership essay, I was writing, I was able to lead in this role, I play a role in this role, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. The one thing I found really common among most of the scholars, Chevron scholars I've spoken with, is the fact that they use what we call the STAR model. What I mean by STAR model, the STAR, that is situation, task, action, and then the results. And what they did is that they tried to paint a situation, paint a scenario. Okay, there was a problem. Take, for example, in my department, previous years, there was this issue, students were not doing well in the academic life. So I saw this problem, and looking at this problem, I was looking for a way to address this problem. And so I volunteered to lead as a departmental president. In this capacity, I was able to do this. Now you are talking about your task, what you've done, and the actions you have taken. So you're building on painting a picture of the situation, and then you're going from the task you did, you're going to the actions, the specific actions, like give details, specific actions you've done. And then at the end of the day, you crown it all with the results. So it boils down to finding the right balance. What exactly are those scholarship opportunities looking for? What are they looking for in a particular candidate? Because I think as long as you keep making the same mistakes, you may apply to as many scholarships as possible. It's not about the number. It's not about the quantity. It's about the quality of the application you put in. It's about the quality. I mean, thank God, one of our mentors, Olayinka, said he only applied to one opportunity in University of Erasmus for his master's program. And you see the interest. The interest was to do a particular course, and then he focused all his attention on that course. of course, I'm not saying that that is the right motives to go about scholarship applications. I always believe in doing the numbers, but if you must do the numbers, do it the right way. Don't just do it because you want to contact so many people, you want to send in so many applications. Just like Marilyn said, you can send 50 different emails to supervisors and you will get no response from any of them. The reason is that you've really not done your research well. You have done so many things. You are excited that, oh, I've contacted so many people, I have gotten across to so many professors, but you've done nothing because you have not really taken your time to look at those particular informations they need. If, for example, like I remember when I applied I contacted, they sent my CV and my letter of motivation for a PhD position in Netherlands. I actually contacted Dr. Casey when I was having the interview. One of the things that made them call me for that particular interview in my letter of motivation was because I went back to the offer, the openings. I saw the requirements. We needed a PhD position and students who have expertise in statistical analysis, students who is a team player who can also work independently. I painted that picture in that letter of motivation. I painted that picture like I was giving them, I am this. I am not just mentioning it, I am backing it up with examples, like specific examples. Yes, I'm a team player. In my undergraduate studies, I was able to work with 5 persons. We coordinated a project. That is exactly what you need to do. Like, go and do the research, find out the specific information needed for that particular application, and then do your right work. And don't just allow it to stop there. Don't end the applications there. Referee is really, really important. If your referee can incorporate those details, but in another format, into their reference report, I bet you will stand a chance of being competitive compared to someone who just wrote an outstanding or amazing essay or amazing report at the end of the day. So it boils down to you doing your work, being unique in your scholarship application, trying to make sure that you identify a particular area. And then one thing I think most some of these European universities love is the fact about numbers, being statistical in quantifying your achievements or your result. If you say you have impacted a number of undergraduate students, how many people were they? If you say in your leadership essay, for example, for those, I know so many people are applying for Chevron Scholarship. If you say you've impacted the lives of undergraduate students, quantify those things, like try to put figures to it. Let there be statistics in it. It goes a long way to showing how detailed you are, because giving them a specific numbers of how many people you have impacted upon goes a long way to tell more about your organizational skills, because you are giving the details, you are maintaining the numbers, you're trying to make sure that you're not just giving the surface, but you're giving specific details about that particular application. And I think, obviously, and again, finally, I would say, at the end of all your applications, another thing that could potentially make your application stand unique or make it stand out among other applications is the ability to connect with mentors, ability to use up the mentors you have in the group. There are so many of them in the group. Try to get in touch with 1 or 2 of them, and then see how they can make quality and constructive corrections to your essays. Because again, one thing Samuel mentioned was the fact that sometimes he doesn't share his essays with people. Yeah, I think to some extent, to a large extent, that could work. And to some other extent, some persons might be writing essays that completely out of point. Like they are writing something that they are not really in line with what the scholarship or the organization is advertising for. And sometimes, looking at what other people have done could actually put you in the right track. Now, I'm not talking about copying the person's idea. I'm talking about looking at what this person has done and then try to be creative and as well as produce similar results or something that could be potentially better in your essays as well. And finally, I think when Marilyn was talking, someone asked something about reference. If your reference should be to whom it may concern. And I would say capital no. Please try as much as possible to find out the name of the person or the organization you're addressing your reference letter to. it is really, really, really important. You can't just address your reference letter to anybody. It's definitely not advisable to address your reference letter to anybody or to whom it may concern. Let it be targeted. Let the reference letter be positioned to, if it is a department, then get the information of the department and address that letter to them, because it shows them that you have recognized them, so to speak, and you're not just making a random, you're not just writing a random reference, or you're not asking your referees to write a random reference on your behalf. So I think that would potentially help towards helping you guys achieve your goal of getting a scholarship. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinonso. And before we move on to the Q&A session, I have 2 more questions, and I apologize due to the time limit we have and all the great questions we have. We would like the speakers to address the next question, like how, like, based on your journey and all the setbacks we have during this application, and what are the things that you wish you knew during your application process? Please spend maybe 2 or 3 minutes addressing this. Thank you.
Buster, if I want to take the lead here.
So yes, my question is, what are the things that you wish you knew before during your application process? Like, what are the things that you wish you knew?
Okay, I can take the lead, no problem. Sometimes when I just stand like this and I realize I'm also in the same panel with my mentors, I'm like, wow, you're now becoming a big boy. Okay. So yeah, a lot actually, and I'll try to be very brief. One of the most important things that I have realized in my later on is actually the science of leverage. Leveraging simply means whatsoever journey you are about to start, someone has already gone through it before you even think about it. Someone once said philosophically that there is no new thought in the world again. Anything you're thinking has been taught already by another person. The only problem is you just haven't met that person yet. So there is what I just felt I would have done long ago is actually to use the power of my social media, to be specific, Twitter and LinkedIn, and also try to understand how powerful my networks are. Recently, I know with some little recommendation, I've even been able to recommend people for funding, which is funny. I have discussed it with Mentor Casey a couple of times, and I'm like, oh my God, this little me can actually pick up a candidate and say, this guy is good, and they give him the funding. So what am I saying? There are plenty people, there are a lot of people that are out there as resources for you on Twitter and LinkedIn. Don't just go there because you want to read news. One thing I know about LinkedIn, for instance, is a place where you go to announce your achievement. And a lot of people are carried away with the fact that when you go to LinkedIn, you will see someone say he had 5.0 in first degree, 5.0 in master's degree, 5.0 in PhD, world best scholar, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh boy, look at this guy. This guy, they mad. Sorry, I'm speaking like a Nigerian in case you're not a Nigerian. But at the end of everything you discover, many of them just go there and get the fantasies and leave LinkedIn. Unknown to you, when you see someone that is having such results, nothing stops you from connecting if that is the kind of achievement you want. The same thing happens to Twitter. People go to Twitter for gossips, big brother Ninja, small brother Ninja, big uncle. I'm so happy that till today I've not watched one episode of that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying people get carried away with so many things, forgetting that if you're trying to build a professional life, how many of you have gone to Twitter this day and just go and type MSc position and search, and you'll be shocked the amount of positions that are constantly being advertised on Twitter. Many of these people, you can DM them your documents through Twitter. I'm not saying send an email. You can just DM them and say, I saw this opening, I am this and this. He will say, oh, sure, send me your documents to this email. I have seen people get offers like that. But I was so waiting for the conventional scholarships. Oh yeah, I'm waiting for Commonwealth. When it's time for Commonwealth, I package 20 applications and I send. I keep shooting. Unknown to me, I was mis-shooting. When it's time for chevening, no matter what, I shoot my shot. No. In our generation, anything that is too available in our generation is funding. The amount of funding we have in the world today is more than the number of people looking for funding. The only problem is there are no candidates to fit into that position. So what do? The amount of resources that are available, I've only talked about Twitter and LinkedIn. I'll also mention one which I always advertise. I know many of you might have seen it if you're part of the First Class Leaders Network. Eurexis. The day I stumbled on Eurexis, I was like, oh my God, this is like the richest database for any scholarship in the world. And we are talking about Europe here. I'll drop the link in the chat box in case you don't know these websites I'm talking about. Just go there and type, let's say, PhD architecture. You will see the amount of funding that are available. Go there and say you want to study history. You will always see funding. And I'm like, if all these fundings are available and people are not, and many of these applications, you don't even need to wait for a particular time. You will go, if you scroll down to the messages, you'll see something like, to apply, simply send your documents to this email. All I need is your CV and your personal statement. Some of them are so straight that they don't even need your referee report. All they want from you is just send them your CV and your motivational letter. If you are very motivated, they contact you. One of our scholars in the First Class Leaders Network, we didn't announce her. Funny enough, when we advertised the Eurexis, this lady applied and she got funding. And you know the funny thing? She got funded not just for her husband, her family, they all moved to Netherlands through this funding, just on Eurexis. And how did she do it? Just emailing directly from the website. So I will drop the link for you. Many of these resources are things I wish I knew. Maybe I wouldn't have had my master's in Nigeria, but then having a master's in Nigeria is also an advantage as long as you can make a 5.0. I always say that jokingly, but I really mean it. Don't have a bachelor's degree of 4.5 and go and have a master's degree of 4.0 out of 5. It means you're actually degrading. Don't have a bachelor's degree of 3.5 and have a master's degree of 3.2. If you must do a master's degree in Nigeria, if your bachelor's is 3.0, jump up to get a master's degree of maybe 4.5 and tell the whole world you are ready. I hope these tips help. I'll also drop the link for Eurexis. I guess my 3 minutes is done.
Yeah. Thank you, Scholar Brainbuster. I'm glad you came into the picture just when needed. You saved us a lot of stories that will come after now. Thank you, Nidia, as well. In regards to your question as what some of the things I wish I knew. Well, to be very honest with the audience, I didn't really have a very terrible scholarship experience. All I knew that I don't really have a very good heart with accommodating rejection. So I think I should have learned that earlier. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent most of my time crying some years back, because I remembered I supposedly applied to Oxford and the University of Edinburgh, and the way those rejection emails came, it was as if the whole world has ended. So I had to go and saw like, ah, no, 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 they rejected me. They hold me after all what I have. But I'm glad that I was able to shake those things out. And now, like when I was applying for my PhD position, until I got one, when I got rejection emails, it was just like, just wait. I was like, okay, the next one will come in, and then I allowed it to pass through. But some of the things I really did benefit from these things was that I learned to leverage on my networks unconsciously, but yes, which is something very key. I'll explain just a storyline to my PhD position, and you will see how each person was able to help me for one stuff or another until I finally got to the very end of the race. While I was to apply for my PhD offer at the University of Warwick, first of all, I never knew there was a PhD offer at the University of Warwick. I'll try to spend it in 3 minutes. And then I was just saying, I heard about the Max Mix, something about the computational science that my school, Erasmus University, then did in collaboration with the University of Edinburgh. So I was like, at least they would consider me since I'm here at Erasmus. All my classmates that applied were invited for interview. Just myself and one other Nigerian were classmates. We're not even invited for the interview. So that opportunity went by. And then I just after a class in the lecture of one setting day, my HOD, the head of the department, I just went to meet him. His name is Andy. I was like, hello, Andy. I want to apply for a PhD position. Do you know anything? He was like, oh yeah, that is going to help me out with a list of CDT, Center of Doctoral Training, where I can I could check out. They might have funding available. The following week, he gave me the list. I went through all the lists and found ones that I was interested in and applied to those ones specifically. And then by December, I got an interview at University of Warwick specifically. The other ones, I never got any response from them. So that particular University of Warwick, I followed it through. And then January 9th was my interview date. So before the interview, I think January 3rd or 4th, I contacted Brainbuster, told him that, hello, Brainbuster, I have an interview for a PhD, this and that, and this. I was like, oh yeah. He said, okay, that he would help me conduct like a pre-interview if there's anyone like that. So, you know, we went to see the same computer, and then the whole tension just as this here. He was firing questions, I was shooting answers. And in trying to, you know, the back and forth, and the way I gave my answers, it was like, oh no, young man, don't do it this way, say this. If they ask you, do you have any questions, make sure you have a question. Ask them. If you can't ask them anything in academics, Brainbuster is in microbiology, or so biological sciences. I'm a mathematician. So you won't say because of our sciences, we kind of have a divergence somewhere. But the tips I got from him, and then the information I got from my HOD helped me out towards that. And just so you know, at the University of Warwick CDT program that was available, there was only one slot for international students for that particular funding I was applying to. And by the end of the interview, the lady was all smiling, the other guy was all smiling. And I was like, oh, you're a good candidate. We'll consider recommending you. In 2 weeks, I got admission offer. And then in a month, exactly on Valentine's Day, I just got an email of the funding. That was as of February. And then I was still doing my master's program. So as of February this year, I already had a PhD offer that I was to start in September. And then even going through the part of applying for the visa and some other stuff, I still had to reach out to some other person who had information, who had done it before. So the point I just had to bring out that story was not, I got an MSc, then immediately I got a PhD and all that. So I didn't really have a very tough scholarship application experience like most people. So somehow, because I learned that, not only that I learned, but unconsciously, leveraging on contacts, information, my HOD, Brainbuster, people out there, reach out to this, reach out to that. I found out that the information these guys would give would save you a whole lot of stress. I didn't really meet him that I should send me links to PhD position, because probably I may not be able to get much information from Brainbuster as regards to that. So the best person to give me that was just meeting my HOD, who had a long list of, like, the list was just so much. I just need to find the ones I was interested in. I didn't want to just apply to the whole 15 because I had a list of 15 funding available. So I think that's what I could say, and I hope I didn't just my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajayi. I apologize to other panelists due to time constraint. We're not able to get to everyone. We are going to now open the floor to the Q&A session. So the audience, if you have any question, please feel free to type it in the chat box. We already have a few questions coming in. So a lot of people have been asking about the English proficiency test. So what are the chances of getting in without a proficiency test?
Okay. Sorry, I think I would jump in on that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, basically, English proficiency test is really an important application requirement. Yes, it's definitely an important application requirement. And of course, looking at the region we are considering right now, looking at Europe and UK, for example, most of the admissions body in schools in the UK and Europe, Germany, France, and likes, they always ask for English proficiency test. And sometimes some schools can give you the liberty to submit either your WIEC results or a statement from your university showing that you were taught an English language. Now, this is something you really need to be sure about. You really, really need to be sure that those two documents I mentioned are really can suffice for your English proficiency test. Why is that? Because I've had two scenarios where someone got a scholarship and he was denied a scholarship because of English proficiency test. So she got a scholarship and she was denied a scholarship because of the test. So that, what does that tell you? It tells you that you really, really need to be sure that the university you are applying to can potentially waive that English proficiency test for you, either through through your provision of WIEC results or through your English test from your, statement showing that you were taught in English language. Of recent, it's something like that also happened to one of my mentees. He actually got a Commonwealth scholarship. Yes, Commonwealth scholarship. He was nominated as a Commonwealth scholar. He had already submitted WIEC results, submitted a letter from his employer saying that all the businesses are being done in English language. He has also submitted a letter from the university showing that he was taught in English language. Now, the letter from the workplace was disqualified. That of the WIEC was disqualified because it was more than 10 years. So they needed something that is of more recent. And sometimes I don't understand the basis for this anyway, because I don't understand the basis because sometimes it shows that, do you actually forget the English language you've learned so far, just because you want to enter university? I'm still trying, even the fact that IELTS expires in 2 years anyway. But what am I saying in essence? That the WIEC result was rejected for the guy. English, the proficiency from the university was also rejected because I spent more than 2 years outside the university environment, so it was rejected. So the only option they gave him was to write. Information came in to us, and is expected to meet the English language requirements on or before the 24th of August. So that tells you that he actually had like 2 weeks to prepare for the exam and write it. Of course, by the special grace of God, he was able to do it. We have to devise a class, we tried to put him through, and then he was able to write the exam and he passed the exam. And now he has gotten his notification for award, waiting for his confirmation of award. So that tells you that for you to talk about it, it's really important that you find out from the school. It's really important. Of course, for me personally, I would say if you have the money, please go and write it to save yourself a whole lot of stress. Imagine the emotional trauma this guy is passing through when he was told that his final option is to write an English test. Like, I know he had been in a situation where he was like, what is going to happen? That means if I eventually not go through with this, then obviously I may not be able to get the scholarship. So it's important to find out if you have the money, even if it means borrowing, go and borrow and write the test and find a means of paying back. Obviously there should be a way out at the end of the day, but the fact remains that it's important. Of course, some universities in Europe might not accept, give you that strong condition that it has to be IELTS or TOEFL. Some might accept any of these alternatives I've mentioned, but the fact remains that you need to find out whether you are expected to supply that test, and if you are expected to do so, please go and write the exam. It will save you a lot of energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinoso. Thank you. Yeah, so other than yes, I think TOEFL can also act as a proficiency test. Just want to clarify, because I think we have a few questions from the audience. I am afraid that we're running out of time, so I'm afraid that we're not able to address all the questions we have. However, the contact of the panelists will be made available afterward, and the session is now recorded and will be made available to the audience. So if you miss anything, please contact them. Feel free. Thank you all for joining, and thank you for all the panelists for all your valuable feedback and information. We hope that you have taken away valuable information from this session and will increase your chance of success. Our session next week will be North America, so if you're interested, we hope to see you again. Thank you again for all the panelists. Thank you again for the audience. Thank you and take care.